Hi, I'm Ian and I work in the Hebrew and Biblical side of the amazing Department of Hebrew, Biblical and Jewish Studies. Have you ever wondered what are the earliest physical copies of the books of the Bible? Whenever these books were written, when do we actually start to get physical manuscript evidence of them? The answer is we get the earliest books of the Bible from the Dead Sea Scrolls, also known as the Qumran Scrolls. These are the remains of over 900 manuscripts discovered in the Judean wilderness in what is now Israel in the 1940s and 1950s. Around maybe 230 of these manuscripts are copies of what are in the Hebrew Bible, which is the same contents as are in the Protestant Old Testament. Some books are very common, like we have upwards of 30 manuscripts of Psalms. Other books are pretty uncommon. It's like we only have one very fragmentary copy of the Book of Chronicles, or in fact we have none of Esther. It's important to realize that these manuscripts are very, very fragmentary. Of the 230 or so biblical manuscripts, only 108 have as little as 50 words preserved. Of those, only 6 have 1,000 or more words preserved. To put that in context, some of the larger books have over 20,000 words. Of those 6 that have 1,000 words preserved, only one has more than 20% of the book preserved. It's like we get little windows where we get to look at a particular part of a biblical book, but we don't get to see the whole picture. These 900 manuscripts of ancient Jewish literary works are not just books found in our modern Bibles. Beyond copies of the Hebrew Bible, there are among the Dead Sea Scrolls more than 50 copies of books which we know from the traditional Christian Old Testament, which typically has more books than the Hebrew Bible. For example, we have copies of the Book of Tobit or the first book of Enoch. The rest are copies of compositions which weren't known before they were found at Qumran. These include rules of communities, biblically inspired rewrites, calendrical texts, poetic texts, wisdom literature, commentaries on prophetic books, etc. and etc. How early are the earliest biblical manuscripts from Qumran? Generally, scholars think that the earliest manuscripts come from the middle of the 3rd century BCE. So we're talking about around about 250 BCE. The oldest scroll is often considered to be a copy of the Book of Samuel, which is coded as 4Q Samuel B. That means Cave 4 at Qumran, 4Q, Samuel B, the second copy of Samuel from Cave 4. Other books which have early manuscripts include Exodus, Leviticus, Jeremiah, the 12 prophets, and Kohelet or Ecclesiastes. If you want to learn more about where the Bibles we have today came from or about the Dead Sea Scrolls, come and join us in the Biblical Studies and Classical Hebrew program in the Department of Hebrew, Biblical and Jewish Studies.